Welcome to episode 7 of the Renault Master camper conversion. In this episode we're going to be covering the cabling to the lights, sockets, appliances and the blade fuse board. I positioned this in between my negative buzz bar and my MIDI fuse board. So I'm going to get this wired up in a minute. I've already got some of the cables prepared, just one end because I don't know the lengths yet. It's raining, so I don't want to run extension leads and try and have too much in the van, so I've done this part in the house. So the reason that I'm actually jumping onto this now is because it's raining. Now I've got lights in the van. There is 4 strip lights on the ceiling that was already here when I bought the van. I did initially wire up all 4 of these to this battery, but I found that the battery drained too quickly and I also need my batteries for my tools. And the battery got hot. So now I've just got one of the lights wired to the battery and that's fine. It doesn't last too long, but it still gives me light. But now I have my solar and my storage, there's no need for this. So I'm going to start with wiring up my fuse blocks and then I'm going to temporarily wire this cable into my fuse box and then I have lights. That's my blade fuse board done. So the neutral is down there, goes up behind the wall into there, the positive's there. That's just temporarily wired up, so I've got some lights. I've already run one cable. I've done that when I've done the solar panels because it goes through the same conduit. And it's going to be going to this fan here. I'm just waiting to put these timbers in between the roof so I can drill a hole through it to get the cable through. And then I will be fitting some plug sockets onto the cable so it can be easily detached. Now my noggin is in, I can get the cable through and put the connector plugs on. One little tip for doing these plugs is before you connect them up, plug the plug together and mark one side with a black pen. Then that black pen can be your negative side, so you don't get them in the wrong terminals because it's easy to do and it's a pain in the ass to get them apart. This fan actually has 2 cables, one's for the light cowl that goes over the top. So I am going to have to cut this cable again and then splice another cable in. But for now, I just want to test the fan. Make sure it's all working correctly. One of the first things I'm wiring up is this control panel. So I'm putting these plugs on it again, because if I need to remove it to change fuses, it's going to be easier to just quickly unplug it and pull it out. Then I've got my feed cable. So I've just temporarily done this because I'm going to have to put a cut down this neutral somewhere else and put a bus bar in because this is only lives on here. But to get me going, this will be fine. And I'll properly wire it in when I get the right components. So it's got USB, so I can charge my phone, and I can also run my 12-volt radio that I've just ordered off of that. It has the 12-volt socket, cigarette lighter thing, so I can run my pump, my 12-volt tyre pump off that, because it doesn't reach from the front to the back. So now if I put this at the back doors, I can be able to get to the back tyres with my pump. And then we've got 5 switches, so whatever we need in the garage. One's going to be lights. There's actually some lights on the back of the van that were already in there, so I'm going to wire them up to another one, and then I've got 3 spare. Moving forward with the electrics, we're going to want to find our main routes for our cables. So I've got this conduit through here. I've managed to get it through the gaps in all the framework, which is pretty good. Up here I've had to drill a 25mm hole to get it into this cavity, and then here I'll feed off for my fan and whatever else I need. I'm using these cable ties, so you just drill a 6mm hole. I think they're 4.8 by 200mm, 20 centimeters. So you just drill a 6mm hole, and then you just pop that into the hole, and it's just going to keep everything nice and... Oh, sorry, I'm going to have to switch hands. I can't do it with my left. That just pops in like that, and then that's got that there. So that's a nice easy way of doing that. But don't tighten it up yet until you've got all your cables through and you're happy. And then the final thing would be to tighten all these up, because while we're trying to get cables through, we can move this around. Although this one here is split, so some of them are sealed, this one's split. So this means I can get cables through easier and I can pull them out in different positions. I just noticed the screwdriver in the video as I was doing it and forgot to mention why I've put the screwdriver here. Inside here, you probably can't see it, is another conduit full of cables. So I've put that up there to hold that out of the way, so when I drill up from underneath to fix these ones, I don't drill into the cables, because then we're gonna be having a right nightmare trying to repair that. So the fan has two cables, one for the actual fan and the other one is for the LED on the cowl. I don't want to join them all together, because if we need to remove that cowl for something, the cable's going to be dangling and we're going to have to cut it, or it's just going to be dangling. So I put two plugs on, and then I'm using two butt connectors and putting the two cables into one on one side. On this side, I folded the cable over, so it's doubled up, and then I'm going to put it in there. Remember to put your heat shrink onto the cables first before you crimp it. I'm going to put this on here now and crimp it. And I can finally heat shrink it. It's a bit tricky up there above my head. I'm using both sides of both parts of the crimper, because I didn't feel like that was that tight. That's the positive done. Now it's going to get a lot more tricky when we do the neutral, because they're both the cables are going to be next to each other. I'm not going to get an extension lead out and run a heat gun for this one, so just do it with a lighter. But I'm just going to do this one and then I will stop the video. Because you get the point. You don't want to see me struggling trying to crimp these cables together. Now I've got this noggin in, I'm able to finish the cables for the fan. So that's all plugged in and ready to go, and then the plug's there ready and the cowl's wired up, so when the ceiling goes up I can just put my cowl on and plug it in, and that's job done. My insulation come today, so I've insulated behind this board now and put it back on. That means I can move forward with the wiring. So the first thing I'm doing is this. I haven't got any lights wired to it yet, and these are all individually fused, but there's no negative bar. They're all positives coming out and one negative cable going in. It's got plugs on there, so I can plug it in, and then I've got my negative bar behind there, which I bought separately. So I'm just going to get this plugged in, that's ready to plug in and screwed back, because it has USB and a 12 volt cigarette lighter, so I can use them. And then I'm using these little ring terminals. Just a little tip there, once you crimp it, leave the copper longer and then fold it back over itself, and then crimp it again, and then you can get your heat shrink over that, and then that will be in there, and then I'll have my little control panel live. Now that my fan is fitted, I can start wiring into the fuse board. So I don't have the sheath wire strippers, so the best way I find to do it is to make a small incision in the cable, split it apart, but you can't cut all the way down, because as you can see there, it slices open the insulation on the individual strands of cable, which we don't want. So once you pulled it apart like that, then you can literally get hold of it and pull it apart, and then do that as far as you want it back, and then cut the outer insulation off, and then I'll leave you with the bare single strands, and then I can put some ring terminals on these ends and wire it into here. I fitted my first light. Again, I've used the plugs, and I'm going to pop that up in there now. But I can't test it yet, because again, I'm going to use one of these control panels, but I'm not nowhere near fitting this panel in yet, so I'm just going to pop it up and that'll be another job done. The cables on the right are for my fan, protected by a 5 amp fuse. The board also comes with this cover and a variety of stickers so we can identify each circuit. So my fan is now working. It also has built-in LEDs, and I've got my first light fitted too. The main ventilation fan is now wired up using the connector plugs again. There's just one last step, which would be to wire it to the control panel switch over here, and then we can test it. I've nearly completed the electrics now, so I just wanted to share this bit with a bit more detail. This is for my bathroom, for my fan and my light. This cable is the feed-in from the fuse board, and the live goes to a live block, a permanent live. The neutral goes to the neutral block. Then we have a second cable. This one runs through the ceiling and it drops down here and will be inside the wall when it's built. On the switch cable, the live goes to the permanent live. There's no neutral. The neutral will be sleeved with a red sleeve, and now this will become live. So when the switch is flicked, the neutral is the live cable, which feeds this block here, and this is called the switch live block. The next thing to do would be to wire in my light and my fan. My light positive or live cable would go into this block, and the neutral would go into this block. The neutral's always flowing current. The positive live block is only live when the switch is flicked. The wiring in the junction box is now complete. This cable's to my fan and this one's to my light, which is behind here. So the live from both cables go into the middle block. This one's brown, so it's just a different cable. And then the neutrals go in there, and this one's blue again because the light cable was a smaller gauge cable, so it's a different colour. It's just the one I had. So now that's done, I can close the box, and that's job done. The wiring for the bathroom is pretty much done now. There's just one cable behind here. Once the ceiling goes up, we can core the hole for the light and wire that up. The fan is now operational. And the light switch is just temporarily joined together. Again, this will be connected up once the wall has been put in. But as for the wiring, that is done and it's all working as it should. I've started on the cladding, but I can't carry on until this control switch is done. So we need a neutral buzz bar, and it's best to put it where I can access it through the hole. So I'm going to put it above. I'm putting a little batten at an angle so I can screw my buzz bar to there. And then I will be able to get a screwdriver in at an angle to undo them and do them up if I need to get to them. The reason I put it above is because of gravity. So if cables are dangling from the control panel, we don't want live cables dangling near the neutral bus bar. So this way, all the neutrals go into here. We have one neutral to the plug, which plugs into the control panel, and all the lives and the fuses in the back will be below, so they're not going to interfere with each other. So I'm going to get that in there now, and then I've just got to get the cables in there stripped back and ready for the control panel to go in.